All right, everyone. Everyone hear me? Okay, so welcome to our panel. This is Bringing Films to Life. So what does that mean? So you can wear costumes, and you can have a bunch of friends, and you can film yourself doing very fun things with that combination. So we're going to talk about a little parts of that. So we have, my friends here. There's Amanda, there's Scott, there's Tony, and there's Zach. Some of us have gone to Hollywood premieres together. Some of us have performed at the Masquerade here at Comic-Con together. So there's a lot of really fun things that you can do with your costume. But we will go into a bit about how to, make some of the cooler aspects or the more technical aspects. And we hope that you enjoy. We're going to talk about for about 40 minutes and then have 10 minutes for questions. So again, this is everyone here. Here's that. So we'll start with Amanda. You will?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Amanda. I started costume designing when I was 16, so that was 5 years ago, really. And today I'm going to talk to you about two suits. I'm also a member of the Avengers Initiative. I am joining the Dark Empire. I'm a member of the Droid Builders. Do a lot of fun stuff. And cosplay as a family. I'm a big believer in every suit that I create, and every piece that I create has to tell a visual story. Because sometimes you see someone from a distance, and you've got to convey who you are, what you're doing, your profession, your rank, your socioeconomic status, all of these things at a distance. So there are a lot of details that go into what you're doing. And I like to make sure that all of my details are in sync and everything goes through. But this is a piece that I did this year for me. Once in a while, Mom gets to do something. I made Bellomo from The Mandalorian. I'm going to kind of go through these quickly because, as we all know, SAG-AFTRA is on strike, and if this was a show currently in production, this would be a struck production. But this was an interesting thing. That was a process of craziness. It started as a very, very curly wig, and then I almost combed myself into a closed system. I'll talk more about that later. And then my boots, my gloves. My tool belt at the bottom started as a $20 piece from Harbor Freight. And that's my son's up at the top for the littlest droids. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. This is my son's suit, which is right here. This is Gar Odinson, the littlest droidsmith. He is 7 years old, and he is the youngest member of the Droidsmiths Union, which is pretty cool. He helped design this himself, using the Star Tours and Space Mountain cast members as his color palette, and blue and orange are also his favorite colors. I started with a coverall pattern and had to make some specific arrangements. With the sleeve pattern here on the left, you can see how to fold a pattern so that you can put piping in it. Some people have never seen this before. So you fold in half, you cut, and then you can do your piping. There's my layout, and of course my supervisors. Yeah, you always have to have help. All good suits come with help. We cut out. There's a pocket that we made. It was a 3D pocket. Ended up not working. You have to be able to think on the fly and change. They ended up being too low and just too big, so I had to cut them down, shorten them up, and then they ended up being the back pockets. I have one of my handy-dandy helpers down there flip the mannequin around to show off the back pockets. Thank you, Lars. This is also the reason that all three of my two younger sons got into starts. Lars started doing it, and the other two started. So there you can see what the finished product of the back pockets was. And all of the pockets on this thing are functional. So 2 chest pockets, 2 side pockets, 2 functional back pockets. All that weathering, messing around. You can see his side pieces, his trim on the sides, his collar, his goggles, and then his little droid escape pod, which is down there. We had to take a cat carrier and then go a size down from the cat carrier. This is actually a hamster size because a full-size cat carrier, too big for a little droid smith. So he sized down, and we've added his little pit droid in there, and then his Lola droid's name is Beepo. B1P0, Beepo. And he named him. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4 pictures of him in action there. We'll go to the next slide. This is his official Droid Smiths picture, taken by our good friend Mario, that corner in Coruscant. Amazing. This was taken in a closed-off section of Falcon at Disneyland, which was a pretty cool experience there. Jeanie, did you get the party floor pictures loaded in, or am I just going to wing it with the party floor?
Wing it.
Wing it? Okay.
That's a Scott's.
Leave that photo up.
Okay, go ahead.
And the reason why I want this photo right here left up is because the prop that he's holding is how I met Amanda. That is a droid maintenance data pad that I built custom for him. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is my cosplay. I am a big-time Disney founder. In fact, Batu founder. In fact, I've pushed the limits pretty hard and actually been asked to debound a few times because people want to take photos with me. But a lot of that stuff on me is things that I've made. I have a video next. Oh, here's the droid pad. Yeah, just go ahead and play. So basically what I'm going to talk to you today about is weathering, because space is dirty. So there's 2 types of weathering: acrylic wash, or 2 types of washes, excuse me. Acrylic wash, where you're going to use a lot of water. Now the disadvantage to acrylic wash is if you're doing a larger prop, you're going to need to do it in sections because acrylic paint dries faster than the next one. The next thing that I'm doing here is I'm wiping it off now. You want to leave about a percentage of that in there. You're changing the color of the prop. You're adding grime to the little grooves. You're making it look like it's living. And what I use here is just shop towels. I use makeup brushes that I get from like the 99-cent store. You don't need expensive brushes. Makeup sponges. And here what I'm doing here is I'm just adding a little depth to it that'll then powder well. The colors that you want to use are black, burnt umber, and yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is really good if you're using a black prop. So there's an example of the fresh versus the kind of weather. I am not a fan of acrylic wash. The next one is water mixable oil. And fun fact, water mixable oil is actually an entry-level oil paint. It's the cheaper oil paint. Again, same colors, black, yellow ochre, burnt umber. There's my makeup brush, and you can just wash and slather. Oil paint takes forever to dry, so you get the advantage of basically slathering this thing up as much as you want, as dirty as you want the prop. Now, it is easier to add than it is to take away. I, though, however, believe that space is a very dirty place, so I like to slather my props up with a ton of grime and oil and then wipe that off. Again, I add a little bit of, here I am, I'm just washing that prop, and then I'll get in there with the nook and crannies. And then I'll come back in with the brown after I've wiped it down. This mirror doesn't like my video much. And I will add little bits of brown in there and cap that off. What that gives you is a nice little effect, which is worn off of like dirt around the screws, grime inside of the prop in here, dirt around the edges. Can we go to the next slide? So basically this shows, you know, the acrylic versus the water mixable oil. Next one. Starting to pick like. So this is rub and buff. Now you've got the technique here where if you have a black rock like you've done, you can come across the round edges with this. Now I want to warn you here, rub and buff is a wax with some metal flakes in it. A little bit goes a long way. So you put a little dab on the paper, you rub it, and you'll rub it off. You just want to put it in the edges. You're trying to tell a story, you're trying to make this thing look weathered and worn, but only on the edges that would get that rub. Always tell a story. So on this one, I'm just trying to tell a story of like, these are the knuckles of metal, they've been painted black. The metal is now wearing underneath it so that it looks like it is metal armor. I would then go back and add armor pieces on top of this. Next one. That's it.
Okay, Tony.
Hi.
Can you speak into a mic?
Props and costumes for since I got out of college, and I've been on stage at Comic-Con about 5 times. I've had about 8 different at the masquerade. I've been trying to get different costumes on stage. This is my Shrek costume. Next. I have a video. I don't have it with me, but if you want to Google Dancing Shrek Comic-Con 2012, that's me. I'm going to hit. Next slide. So this is how I made the Shrek costume. Made your sculpture. Started with a little tiny
Jack, your voice.
Okay, can everybody hear me? I started with a little tiny doll, basically, and blew it up about 20 times, sculpted it in clay. Next slide. And then shout out to Berman Industries. I made a 4-piece mold out of that. It weighs about 50 pounds. And then I cast it in latex. And then, stay there. So what I had to do was, it's latex, and it's a huge thing. And what are you going to do? You have to, so what I did was, I put the mold back together, and then put clay in the mold, so it was a little bit smaller, and I used expansile foam, and sprayed it in the inside, and made a skeleton, and then put it up inside the clay. So that's how that worked. Next slide. Okay, this is that's at the con. I probably would have done something a little bit different for the shoulders of the cape. Probably put something underneath it to lift them up. I was going to redo that costume. So it's Crimson Empire store-bought helmet, but made the cast of my chest out of plaster, and then on that plaster cast, embellished it with clay, and then made next slide. Well, then made that you can see on the top. There's these are silicone molds. Again, shout out to Berman Industries to have that situation. So the materials for that mold, and then with that particular case, since it is floppy, you have to do a mother mold of plaster before you cast it to keep the shape.
So Tony, you talked a bit about casting. How much casting work have you done? Because you said I sculpted this out of clay, or I could never do that.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this kind of thing?
I've been doing casting for a long time. Maybe perhaps I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so perhaps thousands of casts of people's arms. So what they don't have, so that's the material down there by Berman Industries. casting material. And then they don't make, go back for a second. Okay, then go ahead. One more. That's cast in resin, okay. And the chest piece and the shoulder pieces. They don't make that anymore, but they don't supply it anymore. It's no longer produced. But Smooth-On does have additional material that's similar to it. I think it's a little bit more expensive, and it takes a little bit longer to cure. But you can see how it is from behind. Now the sword, double sword, was basically bamboo, made it like a airplane wing, and with PVC tubing on the inside, styrene, flame pins. Shout out to Tap Plastics. That's 1/4 inch, 1/16 inch styrene. It cuts very, you score it and it breaks along its score. Very easily done. And the middle part is a dowel from a plaza, and braided material on top of it. So that's what it looks like all together. So this is the next, this is from episode 1. Chancellor Lauren's guard. Had those kind of funky looking guns with the crazy shoulder stock. So converted one into another, one red guard into a blue guard with the helmet. Made the gun. Next line. So that's the conversion. Next line. So this is the gun. The gun is actually quite well. I mean, it came out pretty well. Again, 1/16 inch styrene. You weather the edges, and you put your. So that I started with like a Mac 10, a little tiny deceiver, and then built the rest around it. The plastic on the top again from Tap Plastics is similar to what the barrel is. Again, weathering is always a good thing. You want to get into nooks and crannies and make it look like it's got something there.
So did you use a different color scheme than what Scott was talking about? The black, the ochre, the yellow?
Similar. Well, I did want to mention, if you want something that's wood color, you can use those same colors. I've done things where you've painted something brown, and then you take a wide brush with various washes, and you make wooden grain over the brown with that.
Oh, that's really good to know.
Works really well. So next slide. So this is my Heimdall costume. This is, sorry about I conceived the concept of this costume before the Thor movies. I don't mean to, this is from Jack Kirby, so I don't mean to say anything from Aegis, whatever his name is, the fellow that was in the movies. So I made everything there, basically. So the helmet, next slide. So what I did was I took a live cast of my head, and again used the expansile foam. It looks kind of funky there because the couple play a bunch of times, and so you again you sculpt on top of your head. You make a sculpture of the helmet, and then you do a mold of it where you pour the silicone over it. And then, again, you do a mother mold of it. This is that mold is really old, so it's all lost its shape. But you can see on the other side, on each side, that those are the sides of the horns. You don't need a mother mold for those because you basically, they're in the sense that you build a little box out of plastic around it, if you look at that. And then the shoulder pieces, again, what's that? Okay, got it. Is the expansile foam. Next slide. The back of it, that's basically poster board, and the nubs that you use are from Easter eggs. And then that's styrene for the abdominal armor. Shout out to Candy Leather. They have straps for your buckles. Next slide. So this is the Big Lebowski. I made this for an ex-girlfriend. So the reason why I show this is that you do the helmet piece in the same way, but oftentimes I could have molded the chest, the breastplates, but you go to a dollar store and you walk around and find the perfect shape, which is a food string. So those are food strings. Next slide. That's my Tuscan Raider. Made the eyepieces look better. You cut off the styrene and the latex in these pieces, again, from a dollar store. That's how you make popsicles. Next slide. Oh, and that gappy stick is plaster, mold shape, sculpted plaster, wood, and styrene. Next slide. Almost done.
Okay.
This is my steampunk thing that I really like. So those are catchers. Anything goes. So, and then the gun has started with a Nerf gun, and then you can see my flamethrower on the bottom from a blowtorch.
So I'm gonna ask some questions now, Tony. So I, like some others, we go to the convention, we go in costume, we buy way too much in the dealer hall. So having these props, being them kind of heavy, is generally an issue. So do you have any tips about making them lighter, perhaps?
Oh, well, using that light cast or that other material is very light, so it's very good for that.
And how's the durability on that?
I made some of those things 20 years ago.
And so if you just accidentally walk in and slap into a wall or a person carrying a bunch of bags, it's going to be okay?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. We're just going to go to Zach. So Zach is a good friend of mine, and don't feel, shame that you can't go to his level of things. He is a professional engineer. He works a lot with very expensive machinery to produce the results he gets. But it's a very interesting time working with Zach, so take it away.
Yeah, so most of my work where I got started was in building robots and stuff like that. And my goal was to kind of build every famous movie robot over time, and it's taken a bit longer than I wanted to, but there's an R2 that I built, the Dalek, which you saw in the video I had ahead of time. But one of the things with being an engineer, I'm not near as talented as the rest of the people on this panel. And so being an engineer, I find ways to cheat to make it look like I'm as talented, but not. So I'll kind of go over that today, what I do to kind of make it on my side or cheat to get the desired results. So this just shows some of the stuff, the Dalek and some of the stuff, so go ahead and go in there. I did, for Ant-Man and Wasp, I did a Wasp there before the movie came out. Just Wasp, I did those with aluminum and simply just drew the file up and then water jet cut it and assembled it.
So here's what I'm going to tell you is those wings actually go out and in. So if you can see the back of this girl, she's wearing a little backpack, and there's a motor. There's two motors. They're turning two tubes. And as the tubes turn, the wings will come out and the wings will come back in. So it's actually pretty impressive to see it live.
Yeah, my goal is to kind of see those pictures a little better. I never really finished. I really wanted those wings to vibrate a whole lot faster, but I never got back to finishing that out. But it shows some of the mechanism and stuff. And honestly, a lot of this stuff, I'm buying, except for the water jet cutting and that kind of stuff. A lot of this stuff can probably be put together by using different materials, of course. So, all right. I just show some of the other costs that I did out of metal. Spider going has spikes, the concrete, from the chest pieces to the spear to the claymore on the bottom left, the sword, and some of the plates to the bags. One of the things that Chris and I and several people here on the panel worked on was the Project Triptychon. Fortunately, what I was able to do is get some files as to what the actual Triptychon was, and then scale it up to what we think would fit for a door. And then basically that whole thing was backformed. And then since I had the files in CAD, I machined bucks out of just wood, and then just backformed pieces and then painted and something together. So this one, though I prefer metal, it was mainly just styrene, backformed styrene for all this.
So a couple of things about this particular costume. One, we did have to mess with the scale because we had to fit a human inside of it. The scaling on the toy was too narrow. Like, I could not fit inside that robot with the proper scaling of it. The other thing is we had to go with, vacuum formed plastic because weight was a huge consideration because we're wearing this, or more specifically, I am wearing this. I was the only combination of thin enough and strong enough to actually move in this costume. There's no way on earth I could actually lift my feet. So if you look really close on the Triptychon, you'll notice my feet are not in the robot legs. Instead, you can see my legs clearly, and I'm standing on a little kind of a platform. I'm basically skating. Have you ever seen these old stools where they have wheels on it so you can push it, but if you step on it, it's a solid base, it doesn't move? Same concept with those feet. So when I'm on stage or I'm actually doing that, I'm just very slowly, awkwardly skating on the stage. And this was performed at San Diego Comic-Con Masquerade. I have no idea what the year. Do you remember the year, Zach?
19, I think, yeah.
2019, so yeah.
Before COVID.
So this is...
Yeah, this shows, the mill of basically, I've got CNC equipment that I take the engineering files, and this is me just making the bucks, and so it's just MDF wood just glued together into the thickness I need, and then just creating the CAM program and then machining it out. And then some of the pieces we 3D printed, and this one was really under a time crunch, and so, I didn't really get to do exactly what I wanted to do, but, we made it work, and I think that's a lot of people that cosplay, understand that you just gotta kind of make it work.
So Zach, in this photo, it's kind of interesting because you can see the metal frame holding it all together that you can't see in the other shots. You want to talk about that a little bit?
The metal, yeah. So when we started, we basically molded together a aluminum frame, which then all the back form pieces come off of, and then that hand right there is actually 3D printed.
So the claws, the purple part is 3D printed. The black part is actually molded plastic that's glued together.
Yep.
And again, let me tell you, it was still very heavy. After I got off stage, I had clear marks on my shoulders where I had to bear the weight of this. And I was only on stage for like, I don't know, 2 minutes. But yeah.
It's hard to see for me, but it shows some aluminum frame and then, kind of the assembly of it as we kind of put it together there.
Yeah, so, it's one of those things, you build a bunch of it and then you test fit it. Because, some of these parts are a lot easier to redo than others. So like in this shot with the leg and me standing next to it, it's like, okay, well, it's easier to actually cut down and re-weld the metal frame than it is to, make a new buck and then vacuum form over it and reproduce a leg. So, and yeah, having it kind of sized to a human, really important.
Just show some of the pieces they had and Chris in there, kind of how he fits inside the thing. But yeah, it's definitely kind of
yeah, you can see that. It's a test fit. We only have one leg made, so on the other side, I'm standing on a paint can because I'm not going to make 2 of these things to find out that I got to remake the leg. This is the bringing parts to life where it's like you got to really think about what story you're telling with this thing, and how you can best use your time and energy and money. Oh, this is a video, isn't it? Yeah, I know, I cannot walk in this thing. As you can see, I'm awkwardly, slowly skating. And if you can see, my friend Daniel is there to make sure that I don't fall off the stage, which has happened in past Comic-Cons. And I get look close, there's my hand opening the mouth. That helped make this thing, and then his other impressive costume.
So with this costume, I'll kind of give you at least my advice on people trying to make costumes, at least what I've learned throughout the years, through how I go about making this costume. Okay. So for me, finding references, and part of the problem is that there are so many different references that are out there. It's selecting which one you want to go off of, and you can see just from these 3 things here, the different, obviously the movie one is what I want to go off of, but sometimes it's really hard to get good pictures or angles of what you're really trying to do, and what I started with making for the slave blade versus what I ended up with are 2 different things, because some reference material comes out over the years showing better pictures, like, dang it. And our 2 builders know this quite well, because their scaling was was off because of some of the references they had to redo their whole R2 based on, you know, a scaling issue or a size issue, and as more information came out. Okay, next. And this is some of the new stuff here, is never really saw or could tell that the front plate was curved from a lot of the reference stuff I had until this book came out. You could tell that it was definitely a curved plate in both directions. So how I go about doing it is I'll find the model I use, then I'll take a mold of what is the front plate, back plate, as far as the bottom go. That's easy just to measure, just scale off of the size of the bits and stuff. But the chest is much more difficult because it's movable. Okay. And you'll see the molds, and like Tony was saying, you know, we'll take you know, the silicone, then we'll back it with a plaster. What I also do is I'll scan the model to 3D scan the model. So you'll see there in the middle is a picture of me with a 3D scan version. So I'll work with both, because when I draw it up on the computer, I want to have a model that I can, you know, basically scale everything to. And when I'm making it, I want to have an actual, you know, the model doesn't want to stand there for days while I'm hammering the metal and get it into shape. So I have something that's, you know, close to size, basically. Okay. And this shows the scan there to the right, and then to the left will be the, you know, me drawing the different shapes or whatever that shows. You know, I'll draw in a half and mirror it basically. Okay.
All right, I'm just stopping you right there. So Amanda, so this would be different for you when you were making like foam armor. Could you tell us why?
Oh, very different. Number one, foam armor moves. Metal doesn't. Like if we take a look down here at Party Thor, there's also a big difference in scaling for kids than scaling for adults. Because we have to take into effect that, or take into mind that, you know, kids need growing room. Kids will not suffer for their art. They just won't. It's got to be comfortable. It's got to move. It's got to stretch. It's got to do, and it's not an adult in miniature. And a child's body is different than an adult's. Party Thor is all stretch, and the discs on Party Thor are 2-inch googly eyes, believe it or not. I'm a big believer in upcycling and taking a thing, just some random thing, and making it into something else that you wouldn't really find the unexpected and make it into a thing. If I'm using them for adults, I generally will take the shaky disc out, but he was 6 at the time. No, he was still 5. His birthday's right Christmas. So I left them in. And he got to wear that a whole, at the Love and Thunder premiere, and then he barely squeezed into it at Halloween. So we wore it a time and a half, 6 hours of wear time, and he outgrew it. And it's very stretchy, and I built a lot of extra growth around it. Kids, man.
So Amanda, if you had to make a chess piece for a girl, I mean, so like Tony and Zach would just make a cast. They would have a plaster cast at the end of the day. What would yours look like if you were making out of craft?
Okay, I can explain the duct tape method, which is very much how you would do, like for a corset and for other things, in sewing as well. You have your model or your intended or your client get an old junky t-shirt that they don't care, and a roll of duct tape. And you tell them, okay, stand like this, and you just wrap them up. And you say, okay, let me know, is this too tight? Is this too loose? Is this too this? Is this too that? And then you take a Sharpie and you draw your pattern on. And I wish I had a picture of this because it's kind of neat. I could doodle it, but you wouldn't be able to see it. And you draw on there, and then you draw your seams, you cut them up. And then if you're going to use foam, then you're going to score this into the pieces that are yay big or so, and you find the flat planes in the curves. And then you cut them all on 45-degree angles, and you just kind of jigsaw it all together. Sometimes it goes together great the first time, and sometimes you have to redo it 5, 6, 7, 12 times, and you're up until 4 in the morning going, come on. You're nodding. You know. Or one side goes together great, the other side you're just like, okay.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. That's wonderful. Okay, back to you, Zach.
And that's where I really get to cheat, is because, you know, I'm not really making anything. I get to draw it all up, make sure it fits on the model and everything before I even turn the machine on. And I don't have to craft with my hands. The machine's doing it for me because it'll make what I draw, basically. So again, it shows that. Okay, next. And this just shows some of the metal pieces that I'm making and stuff like that. On the left there, I did a crossover for Elsa and Slave Leia, so I actually sheeted out acrylic versus metal. And then it shows kind of how you see how some of the pieces on the bottom there, it'll start flat, and then I'll take it and just put it in a roll it to shape. Okay. This shows what I start with. So the upper right there shows a block of aluminum, and then as you see to the left there, that's this machine. It machines it down, and then I'll basically take it and just bend the ears over. That's one of the head pieces for Slave Leia, and I think that's that's acrylic one in the bottom center, and I heat form that. Okay. And then this is the hardest part because. I'm starting with a flat piece, so I'm largely cut flat, and then I'm basically shaping this then to the person. Okay. And then tons of trial fits, and again, beating with the hammer until it's right, basically, and sometimes cutting it apart, welding it back together, and back and forth.
So basically, you're a blacksmith at this point.
Yeah, with the chest piece, yes, and that's why that's the least favorite piece for me to do, but should be the favorite piece, but it's conflicting.
Which is why almost everyone does this out of craft foam, right?
Yeah. Where these are a whole lot easier because I'm just literally putting it in a machine and machine it.
All right.
And then, yeah, paint and finish. I wish I would have known some of the tips that we saw today about weathering. So I'll take those for future ones. But yeah, it's just paint and finish. And then you see on the right, on the one on the right, that's just sandblasted ready for paint kind of thing. And this just shows some of the different ones I've done, several different crossovers from Tinkerbell to Elsa and so on.
Yeah, so as Scott was alluding to, there's always, at the end of the day, you're trying to tell a story. That's the whole part of cosplay, You're trying to tell a story. Why is Elsa a slave Leia? I have no idea. I would like that story, though.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, I'm going to open up to questions, because there was a lot of technical stuff we kind of hand-waved over. We tried to delve into more practical view stuff, but please hit us with anything.
Well, I didn't want to say one thing. Zach brought up a concept of like getting materials.
Tony, you need to speak into the mic.
Getting your images properly, because especially if you're doing a superhero from a comic book. Let's say Jack Kirby. I mean, he was consistently inconsistent with how he drew his character. So you would look at it in one shot and you think, oh, I got it now, and then you look at it in another frame and you'd have to redo it because it wasn't right or it's too long, too short or something. I'm working on a costume right now that's just driving me crazy. So you just have to, I guess, find the best image and then work off of that.
Well, again, there's a story you want to tell, and then there's how you're displaying that story. I mean, a big rule is, if they can tell you are from 10 feet away, that's pretty good. If they got to be like 2 inches away to see the detail, you're probably spending way too much time and money on this. Seriously, guys. But now, please, any questions? Like I said, we've got a wide range. Old school people like me and Tony, high tech people that do a lot of stuff now. So right there, the Ghostbuster. No, I think this was just a cool thing because he's building something. I mean, I did not put together this slideshow, I'm afraid. Though I have met him several times at Silicon Valley Comic Con. So if that happens, go to it. You will likely run into him. He's a very nice guy. Any other questions over there? Corpse Bride.
Yeah, I didn't actually, and I was going to talk about that. Thank you for bringing that out. Basically, as an orthopedist, I can either use plaster or fiberglass. I choose to use fiberglass simply because you can get a good form out of it with just one layer, and you can cut it with a pair of heavy scissors without it cracking and breaking, and still keep the shape when you put it back together to make the light cast. So basically what you do is you just wrap it in the fiberglass, cut it up, and then you put it back together and break.
So is this a single person activity, or do you have friends that actually wrap your head?
I would just, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, thank you. I think that was the big thing. How do you just dunk your face in plaster of Paris?
So one of the things I did for one of the costumes is use this spoon on like Tony did, where it's silicone, basically put on a skull cap, slather your face in Vaseline, paint on the silicone, it's a dripping mess, and then you back it with plaster, like you say, and it just kind of comes off, and it just peels off like a solid.
Yeah, so the number one thing about when you do these activities is you have to trust your friends. If your friends are going to prank you in the middle, that's not good.
Oh, it's definitely claustrophobic.
One old theater kid thing to add, no matter which method you choose, get a drinking straw and cut it in a couple of bits about yay long. Put the ends in your nose so that as it's drying, you can breathe, especially if you have any type of claustrophobia, because your face will get hot as you're doing this, even in the 30 seconds that it takes, even if you're doing plaster of Paris, and also lots of Vaseline, all over your whole face, double on your eyebrows and your eyelashes. It will get stuck, and it will not feel good when it comes off.
They're exothermic reactions, so, yeah.
Well, there's also just the anxiety reaction of being closed as well.
Also, though, if
So just breathe, trust your exit buddy.
It doesn't get that, it gets hot, but it's probably not over. The silicone is just warm. Fiberglass?
That gets hot.
It does, yeah.
I would probably, if I should have mentioned, you could put like a sleeve over your head, and so it's close, you're like, where are you going?
So you're saying it's like a bandage trick where you put something so you're not coming in direct contact with your skin.
Directly on your skin, no.
For us, for me, I'd rather just if I'm using a person or plaster, it's safer. It doesn't get as hot, but it still gets warm.
Yeah, so it matters. So there's different techniques, different trade-offs. Although I have my own story about having costumes that require your friends to put you into and out of. If you're going to wear such a costume, you have to have a bathroom plan, because you do not want to be halfway into that thing and then suddenly decide, I'd like to use the bathroom, guys. So my recommendation is just do not eat or drink a certain amount of time before wearing that Triptychon costume. I mean, like you said that.
If you're claustrophobic, I know the iPhone has a LiDAR on it, and there is a lot of cheap 3D scanner apps for your iPhone. My daughter's terribly claustrophobic, so to do things for her, I have a 3D model of them, and I'll do a scan of her face, and then do a reference sizing, so I can scale it up so that it's the right size, and then build my pieces around her face. She hates it because then I print out the face mold and give it to my parents, but that's another story.
Yeah, there's some really good tools, like you're saying, to scan people now that are not really cheap and really good quality.
Any other questions? Oh, right there, under your costume.
So do you have suggestions for like LED lights? How to introduce the lights of like a little more super? The LED lights this sharp little box.
Yep. Get closed cell foam packing material that comes in all of your electronics, wraps your things. I do that a lot when I'm doing panel design. I do a lot of acrylic panels for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And when you're lighting those behind, if you put an LED right behind them, it's going to be hot. But if you put this closed cell foam over the top of it, put the LED and then a piece of Gorilla Tape over the top of that, then you really soften and diffuse that light.
Yeah, that's a big trick with the R2 dome lights, because you'll get these light assemblies and you're like, wow, that's really bright. So yeah, you put a layer of foam and then it makes it much softer, much pleasant. Oh, gentleman in front.
Yeah. If you apply clear coat before, you're going to get a little bit more forgiveness to remove it if you put too much. That being said, if I was in the panel right before, cosplay True Crimes, I very rarely clear coat before my weathering. I tend to clear coat after my weathering.
All right, there's a question or something over there?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry, his question was about weathering, whether you would put clear coat first and then weather it, or weather it first, then clear coat?
But yeah, best practice is clear coat after every stage.
What type of clear coats do you like?
What kind of clear
I'm
coats do you
gonna
like?
have to go onto Amazon real quick.
So are you looking for, is there a certain brand? Are you looking for a price point?
It's not expensive.
I like enamels and acrylics personally, but I'm just telling is what he's doing.
It's also really
That's what's
dependent
on.
on what your base medium is. I've been known to use clear Mod Podge on a lot of my foam things because then that gives you a satin finish instead of a high gloss finish, and it gives you a little bit more protection, but you still maintain your flexibility. Where a lot of the spray clear coats will crack. So it really depends on what you're using and what you want it to do. So, we can get more into that, but it would be a conversation for after this.
So we have walking time for 2 more questions.
Okay, so what I'm using is a clear acrylic sealer in matte, made by Plaid, Patricia, and Rocks. I like this because with Rub and Buff, I was having it come off of the rock. But if I hit it with that, then that Rub and Buff is sealed in. So that was the sealer that I started using.
Right, question there?
What materials would you use for like body armor, like shoulders,
Oh,
chest?
that's a good one. So what kind of materials would you use for body armor? I would say, what's the story you want to tell and how long are you going to wear this?
And what's your budget?
Again, what's your
That's
budget?
question 1, which budget?
And what are you comfortable working with? Because you can use foam
That's
for armor. You
Yep.
can use 3D prints. You can use heat shape things. You can cast resin. So it's what do you feel comfortable working with? All of them work.
Some of the guys in the man works at least used to take 5-gallon paint buckets and cut them up and take a heat gun to them and form them that way.
Yeah, but
you can
again-
use just about anything. You take a thing and turn it into another thing. You just all know how you play with it.
Yeah, I think what Scott said about the story, because is this armor going to be damaged?
Yeah.
Are your guys going to be an Imperial Guard and he just looks his best, or is he a guy that just went through the war, he's got damage, he's got tears, he's got dents? Because some of those materials are a lot easier to do that kind of thing than others. Like, put a dent in foam.
And that's the stuff I like to do. I agree with Scott. Space is a dirty place, and I love to beat the snot out of things and just make it look really filthy and disgusting, because then it's got more character. It's fun.
Foam's going to look a little more cast, where like styrone's going to look a lot more smooth and polish it, make it just that much smoother surface. So it depends on what you're looking for.
Also, what I like about cast resin is it's sandable, shape it. If you're off a little bit, you can actually add more to it on top and then sand that down. After your primer, it will paint very well.
So would you guys kind of agree though, he needs to have a firm idea, and then it comes down to what he's comfortable working with, and then what's his budget and his time, because again, time is very important.
Yes.
I mean, we could give you all sorts of technical tips, but this would be a 2-hour panel, and you'd be like super bored after 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Let's
that
push
could be a
all
conversation
the-
for outside too.
Yeah, but we'll be outside. You can just hit us up with your technical questions. But that's pretty much our time. So thank you everyone for being here.